This is Optimal Finance Daily, episode 2125, The Big Wins Manifesto, Part 1, by Ramit Sethi of IWillTeachYouToBeRich.com. And I'm your host and personal finance enthusiast, Diana Merriam. I have a bit of a longer post, so I'll read the first half today and then finish the rest for you tomorrow. So with that, let's dive into Part 1 and start optimizing your life. The Big Wins Manifesto, Part 1, by Ramit Sethi of IWillTeachYouToBeRich.com. What do I mean by big wins? Compare the two people trying to get an edge in life. John, 28, earned $62,000 a year as a project manager. He used to have $8,200 in credit card debt from overspending, but he's been slowly paying it down over the last 2 years, and now it's at $6,400. How? He tried all the typical personal finance advice. He set up a budget, he tried to cut back on his daily lattes, and he made sure to make a list of goals he wanted to achieve. Yet last week, he took an honest look at his life and realized he's still treading water. Despite paying off part of his debt, he still has years ahead of being in debt, plus no real savings, no investment, and something always comes up, causing him to yo-yo back and forth on his goals. Chris, 32, earns approximately $120,000. 4 years ago, Chris was making about $60,000 a year, but he was barely getting by. He had $50,000 of student loan debt, and most days would eat at the free snack bars at his office instead of buying lunch. Yet within 4 years, Chris paid off $50,000 of debt, amassed a savings account of tens of thousands of dollars, and more than doubled his salary. To do this, he set up automated systems to pay off his debt. He turned his skills into side income to earn over $1,000 a month on the side. He knew he was slightly socially awkward, so he spent time joining courses to improve his social skills and ended up negotiating multiple salary increases, including over a $50,000 raise 2 months ago. The difference between the two people? John focused on tiny, meaningless tactics that experts told him he should do. Chris, the successful student with the dramatic results, focused on doing a few important things and mastering them. He focused on big wins. Chris is, in fact, a real person, the only student who has joined every single one of my courses. A national reporter also wrote about Chris in a recent 6-page Fortune profile about my teachings. There's a reason why many of my students have results like Chris. Results that include earning tens of thousands of dollars more every year, paying off $50,000 in debt, and leapfrogging their peers to land their dream job in their 20s, while so many other people are stuck cutting back on $3 lattes with no discernible results and a side of soul-crushing guilt. My students focus on big wins instead of minutia. They don't worry about saving $2 or $3 on lattes, knowing that in the grand scheme of things, the money is largely meaningless. Plus, as cognitive misers, we have limited cognition and attention, so each additional thing we try to focus on means an overall reduced amount of willpower and attention. If you had to use your limited willpower to cut back on $2 a day of something you love versus learning how to negotiate a $10,000 salary increase, which would you rather do? Minutia-focused people try to focus on everything, rarely prioritizing. They obsess over their monthly spending as much as turning the oven light off, never understanding the futility of trying to trick human nature. They use phrases like, I just need to, and yeah, I really should, and if I just try harder this month, I should be able to. True masters of human behavior understand our shortcomings and use systems, automation, and a judicious use of our limited willpower to tackle the things that really matter while ignoring the rest. Once you adopt this framework, you'll see it everywhere. You'll see people dutifully trying to cut back on small daily expenditures, then getting frustrated when it adds up to very little. And they yo-yo right back to their former behavior. You'll see them sporadically jumping from expert to expert, like others jump from diet to diet, searching for the one magic bullet that will solve all their problems, all the while never understanding the mechanics of what actually works. Ironically, if you suggest that they focus on doing a few big wins, such as learning how to negotiate their salary, or earning money on the side, the very same people will claim they're too busy to do that. Indeed. This is a fascinating wrinkle in human behavior. People continue to do something even if it doesn't work, instead of potentially trying something that might actually work but is novel and therefore scary to them. Even if their closest friend has used these strategies and techniques to pay off tens of thousands of dollars of debt. Even if they see examples of people just like them who have changed their lives. And even if they trust that the techniques work for other people, many of us will use barriers like, well, that might work for him, but I have insert seemingly unique situation that is not really unique at all. I find this human tendency totally astonishing. This is why you see people who have been working out for 3 years but haven't lost much weight at all. Yet when you suggest they try getting a personal trainer, even for a week, they say, I could never do that. It's too expensive. Same with diets and money and relationships. Today, a short primer on the difference between the I will teach you to be rich approach and many other approaches. Big wins, a key difference between I will teach you to be rich and other expert advice. There are a few big wins in life where if you simply get them right, you can almost never have to worry about the small things. If you could focus on the 5 to 10 big wins rather than 50 little things, you have an insurmountable edge in life. The I will teach you to be rich philosophy has always been to focus on the long term and to focus on big wins that matter. If you start investing early, pick a sensible asset allocation with low-cost funds, save for big events in the next 10 years, like a wedding, down payment on a house, kids, vacations, focus on having great credit and cut costs mercilessly on the things you don't care about. Do these things and you'll be ahead of 99% of other people. To be continued. You just listened to part 1 of the post titled The Big Wins Manifesto by Ramit Sethi of IWillTeachYouToBeRich.com. When it comes to big wins in reducing expenses, you'll no doubt see the biggest results when you focus on the big 3, housing, transportation, and food. In fact, if you only focus on optimizing in these areas and prioritize saving and investing, you put yourself in a better position to not agonize over every single purchase. This worked out really well for me personally. When I was getting out of 30 grand of debt, I was living in New York City and my rent was $1,800 per month for a cockroach-infested apartment in the bowels of Brooklyn. Now I was locked into a lease, so there was nothing I could do about this expense at that moment. So I focused on my food and transportation costs. Eventually, I moved to Cincinnati and took on a $600 per month mortgage for a much bigger space. Optimizing housing expenses can be a much higher friction task that can take more time and creativity. Often, it's simply easier to slash your daily latte habit or focus on quick wins when reducing expenses. But if you're really serious about improving your finances, it's well worth it to give this area of your budget some serious thought. Maybe you move to a lower cost of living area, or you rent out a room in your house, or you downsize a bit if you don't need so much space. I've found for myself that having full autonomy over my time and being in the financial position to work less is far more satisfying than the ability to purchase more luxuries. Remember that there's a trade-off here. More discretionary spending requires a higher income, which requires more time spent to earn that higher income. Well, that should do it for today. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow where we'll finish up this post and where your optimal life awaits.